republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, number 4, certificate of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk. Okay, thank you. Number 5, meeting agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at it. It's fine. We don't need any changes or anything. Number 6, public comment. At this time, public may be given opportunity to address the committee. Please adhere to the following: 3 minutes or less. Should be directed to the committee as a whole. The committee cannot respond to your comments. And please sign and fill out a comment sheet if you wish to speak on an item. Okay, do we have anybody that wants to speak on public comment? Okay. All right, number 7, consider the approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Helwig and a second by Mr. Peters to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries to approve. All right. Number 8, judge's report. The judge is not here, I see. Okay, so and then number B, courthouse remodel update, Andy.
Yeah, things are rapidly moving along. The the remodel courtroom is getting completed. They're still finishing up a few items there. The staff and the new judge will be able to move into their quarters on Monday. And then the courtroom will be operational a week from there. So August 14th is when it will be ready to go.
Okay.
The judge gets her swearing in or investiture ceremonies on Friday the 11th at 3:30 for anybody that wants to attend that. No real major updates or changes as far as any surprises with the remodeling. So yeah, things are,
Okay.
You can see the exterior is getting, trailers are moving out and storage containers are leaving, and I think we'll be able to start using the parking on the west side by Monday, if not today or tomorrow.
Good.
So things are wrapping up.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Alvarado?
Andy, what time was we're swearing in?
3:30 on Friday the 11th. Yep, we've invited the board and department heads. There's going to be 20-ish judges from the appellate court or the circuit coming for that. There'll be some LCO representatives as well. So I think that's set to last about an hour.
Okay, good. Mr. Weaver, you have any questions? Okay. All right. Number 9, clerk of court's office report. Marge?
Just a little update on the status of things going on in our office. We have taken on probate. We know nothing about it. Fortunately, we were able to reach out to a retired register in probate who's willing to come in and work with us. She'll start with us next Tuesday. And in the middle of all of this, we are also losing our senior criminal clerk. We're happy for her. She's transferring over to be the judicial assistant for Judge Isham. So now we need to hire a new full-time clerk to work in criminal court. So it's utter chaos in our office right now, but we're muddling through.
You'll get it all figured out.
We will. But we hope you keep in mind in budget time for
Right.
the request for another person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any questions for Marge? Mr. Weaver?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks, Marge. All right, number 10, communication center report. August 3rd, 2023 communication center report. Who's doing that?
I will.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
Last month, report for the 911 hangups after we put out our directions to how to deactivate your emergency SOS features. They've slightly decreased, however, continue to remain very high for calls received into the center. Monday, I submitted a PSAP grant to the state for funding for dispatch. And we're still accepting dispatch. We still have 3 full-time spots remaining open. We have headsets that have finally arrived. We're looking to get them installed very soon. Working with the Sawyer County Ambulance Service regarding paging issues and reports or efforts being made to provide the best reliable services to Sawyer County, and including Edgewater. Yeah, new summer has kept dispatch extremely busy, so we acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our dispatchers. And the calls for service at the end of June were 10,410 as of this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rapinski? Mr. Weaver?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. All right, number B. Patrol report, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can see from the patrol report, we did have a slight decrease in our patrol call volume to our cars. However, it was an increase from where we were at last year. You can see our trends showing. We also issued 24 citations for traffic offenses, 12 written warnings, and 5 non-traffic citations. Per community maps, there have been a total of 30 crashes, 12 with personal injury, and 2 fatalities in our county. So that brings our total number to 4 for the year. So we're kind of edging to where we were in 2022. We don't want to see that number go up again. We had a number of successful area events, including the Winter July Jubilee, the LCO Powell, and Hayward Lumberjack Festival. We had officers in attendance there, and we will be down on August 13th, including the chief and I will be directing traffic for their annual Harvest Fest parade. And we had 2 successful area law enforcement deployments in conjunction with the Wisconsin State Patrol, the LCO Police Department, and the Town and City of Hayward Police Departments. We celebrated our National Night Out on Tuesday, August 1st, and in attendance were numbers that were moderately higher than what we had last year. So the word's getting out, and there were a lot of community members there enjoying the hot dogs and seeing the first responder vehicles.
Okay. Any questions for Lieutenant Rapinski?
Can I ask one?
Yes, go ahead.
What's a enforcement detail?
High visibility enforcement detail. We have interdiction aimed at traffic stops, areas of interest where we have drug problems, and we do a saturation patrol. So there's a lot of officers from different areas that will come up.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Weaver, you have any questions for the lieutenant?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Okay, all right, communication system specialist report, is he on there? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Crut.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I do apologize about not being there in person. I did have a family emergency last night. So I did get home finally about 2:30 in the morning here. So I was not able to drive all the way up there. But to kind of give a progress out on the system, the biggest things to go ahead and update on is that we finally have maybe had a full replacement of what was damaged from the storm we had actually all the way of the summer of last year. We took a lightning strike while there was some construction that was being done on the new courthouse and stuff. That damaged some of the communications equipment. Once we were able to isolate it, we were finally able to get all the equipment ordered from E.F. Johnson, and it hasn't been a delay on our part. It's actually been a delay on E.F. Johnson's part. They were able to finally get it. We had to order it through Duluth Superior Communications. They came down, they installed it, and we are now back with our Law D back onto the original way that it was designed, and it's still operating as normal. We did also turn on one of the additional receiver sites over in the Loretta Draper area. We did a test, and we were actually inside yesterday with a portable in the Loretta Draper Fire Department, and we were able to talk to dispatch, and dispatch heard it loud and clear on Law D. So we do have good extension coverage in the system. We are waiting for what we kind of termed as to what we call quote unquote black boxes. What these devices are is they are basically to take the dispatch console and interface it into the radios. So each dispatch console that we have connects in essence, like a giant computer, right? And it goes into a network, and then that network, depending on what button they push on the console, will then go and correspondingly key up on that specific channel that we need. We needed these interface boxes. We've once again had a hard time getting them from EF Johnson just because they've been delayed on there. And with that being said, we have finally located some few, I wouldn't call them used, but from other consoles that other customers have had that they've turned down or they've moved away from, that we were able to use that. So we're going to be doing testing on that next week. It is an involved process because what we have to do is we have to get multiple people involved. We have to get the state involved because the state requires them to have access to the console. They have to get in, they have to make the changes. We have to have the interface on our end, and then we have to set it up to do some testing. Obviously, when we do this testing, we don't want to just do it, hey, spur of the moment kind of thing, because Murphy's Law dictates, let's be honest, that something bad is going to happen, right? If we just kind of don't do a pre-plan. So we're going to be looking at that for next week. And then we're also finally have received, after I think probably on a 4 or 5 month order, headset interface boxes for the dispatch console. So those will be mounted and installed. And then there's a tuning and testing process we need to do to there. So that's what we have going on with that there from the communications side of things.
Okay, did I hear you right? There is communication up at Draper?
There is. Like I said, we took a look at it and we've tested it yesterday for the Law channel, and we are expanding stuff out there. The biggest thing to understand is we are waiting for the winter water tower, which my understanding is that stuff has finally been completed. And then we could start progressing the system out that way further and further more. So we were out there yesterday, tested our equipment, and we are able to bring some of it online. There was a point of matter, I'll bring up a issue where I guess a mouse had chewed through a power cord. So it did cause some damage to one of our pieces of equipment in there inside the fire hall. So that's why we went out there on there, but we were able to get some of the stuff up online.
Okay. Wedges up for Mr. Peters, I think.
Yes, this is Ed Peters. I understand that it is working for law enforcement, but the pagers for the fire department have not been working, and that's a serious concern for our area. What are the probabilities of being able to get that rectified?
Well, now that we actually have the interface boxes on there, that's going to be the next step, is to start to progress out on the new paging system. These interface boxes are required, and the best way to describe it is right now our paging system goes off of 3 individual towers. Our new system is what we call a simulcast system. So what happens is that multiple towers, more than 3, go off at the same time. In order to make that work properly, we have to have those interface boxes. That's why what we have is going to be tested and implemented there. We did check out there yesterday, and I was actually out there during the siren test. And while I was in the fire hall, my pager that monitors the sirens tones did go off, and the siren did go off at the fire hall. One thing I think to make understand and sure is that, one, we do want to make sure that when we go to the new system, and I stress this to all fire departments, that understanding that the paging system can only be designed and cover at a street level coverage area. I did have a good talk with yesterday, the chief, the town clerk, and one of the other firefighters that were out there, and I think kind of helped clear up some myths and misconceptions maybe, or unknowns on there. And I did recommend to them, and they are looking at it is to make sure that there's a preventative maintenance done on their equipment to make sure that the pagers are operating properly, the radios are operating properly, and to the highest potential that it can.
Yeah, what kind of a timeline are we talking about of getting this accomplished? This has been going on since 2011.
The paging system was designed as part of the law system, as the second part of the law system. So we're moving as fast as we can further on it. One of the issues we do run into is that there's no connectivity out there for our microwave network. So that's one of the things that we do have to mitigate within it also. Once we can get the interfaces up and running, we are planning on pushing out the rest of the channels ASAP. I can't give a realistic time frame on there right now because I mean, I could say tomorrow and that may not happen, and I could say 3 months and it could be done in a week. It's very difficult to say on there, unfortunately, because we do have to tune and test a few things with it.
Well, with regard to the microwave,
Mhm.
one of the things that I got communication from the fire department was that because of the absolute location,
Correct.
that they cannot receive a direct signal. Is there any possibility of using, for example, some of the commercial towers that are nearby as a way of, shall we say, bouncing that signal so that it will be received at the tower in Draper?
There is, but there's going to be a large associated cost, as we've already checked into that.
And what magnitude of cost would that be?
$3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Okay, well,
And that's the understanding is that that's the difficult part of it where that is. There is a very, very large hill terrain mass that kind of goes through the county there. And to describe it for the most part, Loretta Draper is sort of at its own kind of valley, for sake of a better term, where the Verizon and the AT&T tower are located out in that area there. They are more so the Verizon tower. They are located on that high ridge.
yes.
At the top of the Winter Water Tower, and if we were at the top of the Loretta Draper, the tower that's at the Loretta Draper Fire Department, which is 75 feet above ground, if we were to draw a line to try to connect those two, we would still be below ground level by like almost 10 feet. So the issue comes in is how can we get that signal over? And that's one of the things that we're looking, that's one of the things that we're trying to mitigate at this point in time. It's difficult in a simulcast system. And the reason I stress this is because right now we have an individual tower system where Hayward and Meteor areas go off. And then after that 5-second delay of the last transmission, then the Radisson Pipestone tower goes off. We want to eliminate that. We don't want to have that double paging because when there's emergencies, that's why we went to simulcast system. The thing about the simulcast system is you have to understand there'll be towers in the Hayward area, Meteor area, Pipestone area, Moose Lake area, and Loretta Draper area. But to make the system work correctly, they all have to go off at the same time. And when they go off at the same time, we're talking microseconds, like 3 microseconds off, the paging is not going to sound right. It's going to sound like a stadium effect, or it's just going to be a bunch of humming or buzzing noise. We are trying to mitigate that with the connection on there, and that's kind of one of the biggest issues that we're having out there right now is that we found out that path, that connectivity path, is just not there. We are taking a look at different things. I've been working with the sheriff. I've been working with Nicole, as I stressed to the fire chief yesterday and everything like that. We are taking a look at things. We are trying to see how we can get over that hump, how we can get over that ridge, what other options are on there. I know there was the expression that has been told to me by a couple things of fiber going out there. Yesterday, I finally found out who the fiber company was because I was not able to get that information from anybody. And we're still, my understanding is another 1 to 2 years out before that would even possibly be a possibility and stuff. So it is something that is obviously of high priority, sir. And like I said, we are working on it. We are doing the steps that we can to get it there. And that's about all I can really go ahead and stress on there. It did change from 2010 back then because there were some changes on the system. Now, this was before my time. Probably a lot of people in administration and stuff like that's time too, that there was a change that was made. When that change was made, it did change coverage. One of the hopes is that maybe with the winter water tower going on, that will help supplement the coverage. Then we'll be able to sort of help start mitigating, moving that thing kind of over there.
Okay, well, I guess the other concern that I have is that we have that helipad that's going in out there, and putting a taller tower out there may be a hazard that would interfere with the use of the helipad, which compounds what we thought was progress. So I would appreciate it very much if we got regular reports on how this is proceeding. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll update it. And Mr. Peters, you are 100% correct. We did discuss that. They did say that the helipad was going out there, and there was talk about putting up a big tower. Unfortunately, a tower isn't something we can obviously just throw up. Right now, from what I could see from the visual inspection of the tower, when the tower was climbed, and a few years ago, more than a few years ago now, actually, but to check antennas and stuff like that on there, that tower is pretty much at maximum height and maximum load capacity. So if we were to go higher, we would have to get a new tower. And then you have basically a question of dynamics, which is, do you do a higher tower that's guide wired? The any of the helicopter services are not going to go anywhere near a pad that has ground wires in any way, shape, or form. Okay, snap a ground wire or guy wire that's going to hit to the ground. All those things there. The other option is a freestanding tower. Freestanding towers require a lot more real estate, and then monopoles. Monopoles are another type of option. However, those are quite expensive because basically you're like trying to put up a metal power pole that you see for those high tension lines, and your cost per foot will almost double by going from even something as simple as like 25 feet to 50 feet to 70 feet, 5 feet, that kind of thing on there. So it does do that. Another thing that we need to think about too is that while we have an area of concentration of coverage, just slapping a tower there does not necessarily mitigate it. It may cover that area, but then if you have coverage issues in other areas, then it comes down to the question of why did we put that tower there, where if we could have moved it over here and done it on a little bit higher mass, we'd go ahead and we'd have 2 areas of coverage on there. Once again, it takes some time, effort, money, and systematic layout. Because once again, even if we find a good place to put up a tower, we have to make sure that there's the connection, the pathways, all those kind of things to it there. So once again, I do want to assure you that I had a very, very good discussion with your fire chief yesterday and the town clerk that was there too. And I expressed some of the things on to make sure that they are using new equipment and everything like that on there too. That may help some of the situation on there. So we have made some headway, and it was a good meeting yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Go ahead.
John, Mark Helwig here.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, hopefully this will be a quick answer.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Can we use the commercial towers in the meantime? I know there's a cost to it, but we don't know when this paging system is going to be fixed. You're saying, well, I could say 3 months, it could be up tomorrow, and you could say tomorrow, it could be 3 months.
Mhm.
So, I mean, maybe you should look at that a little closer. I mean, the cost compared to not having communication out there with their pagers, I think one outweighs the other. So you really need to look at that, please.
We have looked at that, Mark, and the issue is that the cell phone companies don't own their own towers. It's not a lot of people aware of it. So they actually have a company that owns the towers. And then that company that owns the tower works into a extremely good cooperative agreement for the cell phone companies. The tower that AT&T, for example, resides on is a different company, not owned by AT&T, but AT&T has a lease agreement on there. When you go into these types of commercial towers, they do not allow you to share facility space or anything like that. So what we'd have to do is we'd obviously have to pay for space on the tower, which would actually be physically hanging our antennas and then running the coax down into there. But we'd have to also produce our own building. We'd have to produce our own electric. We'd have to produce a bunch of different things that even if we did say, okay, hey, let's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, got it. I was just kind of confused after what you just said, because you're original thing was its cost. You didn't say about, it's not our tower, it's not their tower, all this.
Yep.
So
The-
it's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When we looked at it, it would be probably realistically by tower crews, buildings, equipment, everything to be done. It would on an average probably be about $80,000 to get something in place, the tower crews to get the antenna, to get the equipment into place on there. And that's not talking about RF equipment we need for the paging system. That's just physical infrastructure, microwaves, that kind of thing like that on there. Then probably an additional probably 50,000 for the RF equipment for the channels, and then the reoccurring cost of $3,000 on average a month.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, we gotta back up because I see I missed the chief.
Andy, did you have something?
Yeah,
Something?
I was just going to, with the report by John is, and then item E on the agenda here. So the sheriff is on vacation and couldn't be here tonight, but him and I have discussed the town of Draper's resolution and the issue with the pagers. So he is, and he's been in communication with them. He has a meeting, I think, set up with them when he comes back from vacation, and wanted this, left on the agenda for next month so he can
Okay,
report back to you.
sure. Yep. Lynn, you get that? Okay. All right, we gotta go back upwards here. It's number C, jail report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Waller provided a written report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. As you noticed, currently being housed in Barron County is 0. So on the week of the 22nd and 23rd, we were able to bring the females back. So all the females are back here in Sawyer. Currently, as of today, our current population is 73. Unfortunately, we did have one of our more senior female jailers accept a position in another career. So the good news is we do have a female that's in training. So hopefully we can hold our own with that. We do have one of our male jailers attending jail school. This will be the beginning of his 2nd week there. So that's a 5-week course. So we're working through the schedule, getting it done.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
I see that you got 2 people in Winnebago, but you have down in your out of county, you only have 1 out of county. Is that a clerical?
One out of county would be the one in Winnebago.
Looks like is it Tony Lopez and Christine Duchette?
One of the Winnebago inmates was transferred back yesterday, so.
All right, any questions for the chief on the jail report? Mr. Weaver?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, chief. Okay, number F. Code enforcement specialist, he's not here. I see he sent a report. You have any questions with this report from Brandon? Okay, I don't either, so. All right, we'll go down to number 11, emergency management. Nicole, you're up again?
Thanks. Not a whole lot to report this month. Been a lot of focus towards dispatches last month, but I did submit a hazmat grant for new hazmat gear. Working with public health, finalizing our EOP plans, working with Deputy Jensen for the active shooter event in winter on August 22nd. Our LEPC committee, as well as our local fire and hazmat team, are working with Hayward Memorial Hospital to plan a full-scale functional hazmat event for later this fall.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Nicole? Mr. Weaver, any questions?
No, not for Nicole.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. Okay, number 12, child support department. Who's up? Nobody? Any question?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
On this,
Turn your mic on.
Oh, I'm sorry. This resolution with the Draper, town of Draper,
Yeah.
are we not doing anything with that?
You missed, I just want to make sure you did miss something. Thank you.
Well, we was into that. I know what you're talking about, but we discussed that whole thing on the communications thing. Right, Ed? Yep, okay.
Well, it does kind of ask that we pass it on to the board, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, this
No.
was passed by the Draper Town.
Draper Town Board.
Okay, all right,
Okay,
thank you.
that's straight, Mark.
Okay.
All right. Any questions on the child support report? I have none. Okay, number 13, emergency services, ambulance medical examiner update. Public safety report.
Well, as you can see, we're actually busier this year than we were last year. Our runs are up. We've been doing a lot of 911s. July was really busy, especially around the 4th of July. We had 33 runs in like 4 days, which is a lot of runs per day. We are almost full staffed again. We had hired a new person full-time. We got a couple new part-timers. Everybody is off of orientation now, so they're all in their regular rotations. We've also been working with like the Lumberjack, Muskie Fest, all that kind of stuff, keeping an ambulance available for them in case they had any emergencies, which we actually didn't. We've also been participating in like National Night Out and the other events around the area. As far as the medical examiner side, I am more busy right now. I didn't get total run numbers on that because I've been in a couple classes and stuff that we were working on, but these are the breakdowns of what I have so far. I'm working on some pending cases and waiting. Obviously, I'm always going to be waiting on autopsies to come in to finish up. So you'll always see a little bit of like unknown or on those. We've had a little bit of communication issues, but me and Nicole, we've figured them out, fixed them up, addressed them right away. Got with Andy. Everything's good that way. The calls by the townships, you can see I've broken it down. Again, I'm probably gonna, and also some things that are not in my report, we do now have a way to track the Narcan use by either law enforcement or bystanders for overdoses. We got that. So I should be able, I would wait a while because, the numbers aren't going to be that high, but in future reports, I might include that. I've been working with other agencies to try to, keep track of what they have and what they need. We're almost complete with the AEDs around the county and opiate training. Or Narcan training. I just got 2 more sections to do the trainings for. And then all the AEDs that are county owned will have both the kits and all the updated software and batteries and the pads. CPR training has been great. We've got a lot of training done throughout the county, through the churches and other organizations. The other thing that we have started, we've been working with LCO College, starting an EMR and an EMT basic program. And this year, for the school year, Hayward High School is starting an EMR program in the high school. And my instructors plus myself are going to be teaching that class. And I believe LCO High School is trying to do that as well. We've reached out to Winter School a few times. I haven't heard back from them. So I know the guy that I have leading up that program, he reached out last week and we're just waiting to see. Because if we don't get it this year, I'd like to try to at least get out in the winter area because I want the outline areas. That's a little more important because, that's where the time actually counts, matters to get people on scene quicker. And it's kind of one of my biggest pushes, getting the EMR, EMS program, meeting up with and having the fire association and the fire departments kind of upgrade to that EMR level and working with them, make sure they got all the equipment they need. I did hand out a bunch of first responder kits to Coudray, and I believe Winter got some. I have some more to give out. But I'll be addressing that at the next first responder or next fire association meeting and seeing if I can keep working on them to upgrade their service, because, you know, it's nice. It's a good education to have, even if you're not gonna be an EMT. It's a nice license to at least hold. That way I can at least be able to legally use people on scenes.
Go ahead.
Now that EMR, do you have anything scheduled outside of the schools?
Just because you have to have a training center and the schools are considered training centers. So there's the ones that you would see outside are still through like Northwood Tech or something like that. So, but I don't have anything scheduled right now.
So if you wanted to go to, you'd have to go to LCO?
Not yet. They're not, we're working on getting them. They're really, really close. I had a meeting yesterday with them. And the only thing they got left to do is I believe Dr. Malcolm is gonna be their medical director. And he's just gotta sign some paperwork, and then the state's gotta sign off that they're good to go. And so then there will be an EMR and an EMT basic program in Sawyer County. So that's a huge thing. It's something I'm working on. It's something I think that will benefit the county greatly. And, you know, it's like I said, some people, if they can get their EMT license, you know, some people will go on to become like me, paramedic and stuff like that. The others will just hold on to it, and that's their way of helping the community.
Okay, and what's entailed in that EMR? Is it 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
I believe it all depends on how it's scheduled, because like if it's scheduled in a school environment, it's usually like a semester long. If it's scheduled outside where you can do longer, like, you know, 8 to 12-hour days, you know, then it's shorter. So
Okay, one more question. That black SUV that's at the ambulance building there, is that a paramedic vehicle?
that I decommissioned as a paramedic vehicle. That is just an admin vehicle. And the lights that are on it right now are just because if it's on scene, to make it so we can turn the lights on scene, it's not allowed to go 1033 to any scene.
So what happened? And what do you mean by admin vehicle?
Well, it's so like if I have to run down to Ojibwa and back with supplies and stuff, and it's also been used as there's medical stuff in it, like a full set for that, just in case you had to be, you know, you were out going and you had to do that. Plus there's some medical examiner stuff in it. And that's what we've been using it for. You know, I don't use it to go chasing anywhere. We took all the high vis, after reviewing a lot of the stuff and a lot of citizens' concerns, before I took all the high vis off, I was getting at least 2 or 3 calls a day about that car. And the honest thing is that we've been using our crews a little more effectively by sending it. Even if we get a crew out in the outlying areas, we've been able to send an ambulance and still have another ambulance back at Hayward. And if we have to swap crew, like say the medic has to swap to the other ambulance, we normally take the other person that called in and we put them, so we still have a bunch of ambulances in play.
So we don't have those
No, just,
paramedic vehicle, because we
No.
had 2 at one time, didn't we?
we gave before I took over, Nate gave the animal control, had our other one. And so we were only down to 1 anyway.
Oh, I wasn't in there.
Yeah,
We don't
so,
put the chase vehicles in.
yeah,
Don't have chase vehicles anymore, just
you know,
1 admin and 1 gave to,
Yeah, that happened a while ago.
yeah, so.
I must have been asleep that time.
Mr. Helwig,
You weren't in it? Okay, that's kind of odd, but neither one of us were, especially we're.
Mr. Helwig,
We're in.
are you referring to the black Ford Explorer that's parked in the wood line behind the ambulance garage?
It was right in front of I went by, I think, yesterday and it
Yeah,
was,
it's got the Sawyer County emblem on
Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't have the other stuff on.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no.
well, what happened?
Because there is a black unmarked behind the ambulance garage, and that's actually a decommissioned canine going to auction.
Yeah, I didn't.
I just
see-
want to make sure you didn't.
No,
mix them
not
up.
that one.
No,
But thank
we
you.
just, it was ended up causing more issues than it was helping, so. and-
Okay,
I don't know if this will add confusion or help, but prior to John, when Nate was here, what I understood is that we went away from the chase vehicles and he implemented what he called the power truck.
Yep.
And John can explain the power truck.
So the power truck is that we took a couple of EMT spots. And we created a position where a second medic in Hayward is scheduled from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. So technically Monday through Saturday, there's 2 crews on in Hayward, and the second crew is only on from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, a paramedic level crew.
okay.
And
I'm
it's-
just kind of concerned that
They
the
still have
chair and the vice
paramedics.
chair weren't aware of those vehicles the vehicles going away in a sense.
Yeah, well, like I said,
So that's kind of something that should be brought up to us. in the
and like,
future.
we were actually, those were going away before I was even hired. so.
Then someone dropped the ball there
Yeah,
somewhere.
okay, yeah, because they have paramedics on both rigs 24/7 in Hayward and Ojibwa then.
Which is great. There's vehicles there that just all sudden went. So, thank you.
Okay, I like this, Mr. Fremmel, this call chart from townships and your call chart you got here. I like that. Thank you for adding that.
Thank you. I'll keep it up. It gets a little difficult because I gotta pull it up as an Excel.
Right.
spread And then just manually, I figured out a quicker way to do it, which helps a lot, but I'll keep doing it for my reports.
Okay, all right, number 4. Billing analysis.
I guess I can, this is prepared, the same report that the finance committee gets. Mike keeps up a billing analysis, so this covers through June of 23. Probably the highlights, the aging report isn't totally useful, but you can see the average calls per month. There's just been lower call volume for the last couple of years, in part because of probably the reduction in transfers and just there's not as many calls, which that's going to lead to average amounts being billed being lower and the amount being collected lower, just overall. But the percent collected has come back up. That was one of the reasons for the switch in the billing company is that it started to go down in 2020. And so you can see it went down 2020, 21, 22, and then with LifeQuest being more than a year in service with us now, we've got it back up to 38.06%. I know I've said in the past that in a perfect ambulance system, you probably can expect, getting 50% would be really, really, really optimistic. So we're probably in the 40% would be good if we can get to that amount of collecting your actual cost. You can see that down below the amount collected per call, relative to how much you bill. So we're billing at a higher amount, in part because of the increase in rates a year and a half ago. But and the amount collected is only $602 out of $1,583 being billed on average. So that's that 38%. So
I have a question. On 2021 to 22,
mhm.
billed out almost 240,000.
Yep.
But only collected around 76,000. What about the rest? Is that just, it's gone, lost it, or is there still
right,
working
you
on?
end up
it?
writing it off. Which slide are you specifically looking at? Just
Excuse me, we wrote off all that money?
it's uncollectible. I mean, you can try to collect it, but a lot of it, once insurance is paid or their Medicare is paid, you can't collect.
Can't collect, it's hard, I understand that.
Right.
Ah,
So. Mr. Fremmel, are we still doing transfers?
Oh, no. We do transfers from Ladysmith. We were kind of down on people, so we weren't able to accept a lot of them, but now that we're getting back up, we're able to start taking a lot more of these. I mean, the only issue with a Ladysmith transfer is that 90% of them go to Marshfield.
Oh.
And that takes a crew, especially if I'm using an on-duty crew, that takes that crew out for like, 3-4 hours.
4 hours, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and if we try to take them as much as we can, but we also gotta realize that we still have a pretty high 911 call volume, so we don't wanna hurt that, our part-timers. During the winter time, you'll see our transfers go up because a lot of our part-timers, that's when they start to wanna get on duty a lot more because they're working during the summertime,
Okay.
so.
I was wondering because a lot of times I meet them going to Race, and that's when I'm coming from that way. So that's why I asked that.
Yep, yeah, we do as many, if the hospital calls, we do our best to
Okay.
get them out and, but the only thing that we have to judge is it gonna hurt the 911 coverage? If the answer is gonna hurt us that way, then the answer, we can't
Can't do it.
do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, are there any questions for Mr. Kreml? Mr. Weaver?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kreml. Good report. Number 14, oh no, town ambulance contract update.
So Mr. Fremel and I have been to the town of Birchwood and town of Bass Lake in Washburn County for their July meetings. And then we gave them the draft contract as well as the increase in rates. Nothing was settled. I think we had good meetings with them.
Good.
I think that's I've had some questions that I followed up with them on. And we meet with town of Stone Lake next week. But they're all, working on their budgets and they took the information and we'll keep in touch with them to try to get something settled.
Okay, good.
And that's one other thing with the ambulance contract, town of Edgewater, John mentioned some communication issues. There were some issues in the town of Edgewater with which ambulances were being dispatched. That's been straightened out, but the town of Edgewater did reiterate their wish to they do contract with the Birchwood Ambulance Service, and they requested that we pay their contract fee to the Birchwood Ambulance Service. So that request is still out there. Like I said before, within this budget year, we couldn't do that because we'd have to take money away that's going to cost. If the board wants to do that, that would be like a add-on and like a additional expense within the ambulance budget. So when we get into talking about the budget, we will bring that back up and
It'll
give you
come
that.
back here.
Yes, yeah, or you mean, or finance, probably both.
Yeah.
We'll show you the effect of that and the board can decide. That's more of a policy item.
That was something that they just decided on their own to do though, isn't it?
They've contracted with the Birchwood Ambulance Service for a long time.
Right, I just don't understand why we would pay for it if that was something they decided to do and we're still servicing the area when needed.
Well, we are servicing it. They did decide to do it. Their belief is that the Sawyer County ambulance doesn't adequately serve them. So that's why they contract with that service, like the communication issues and that we resolved. It's even the scenarios that have happened in the last couple of months, even if we were paying that and it's still probably would have been an issue. We've straightened it out is when a call comes from Edgewater, it can come to either the Washburn County or most often to the Sawyer County dispatch. When Sawyer County gets that call, they dispatch our ambulance and then they contact Washburn County dispatch. So Washburn County dispatch can dispatch the Birchwood ambulance. That's at the town of Edgewater has requested to get served by Birchwood. So both need to get dispatched, and on a couple occasions, Washburn did not dispatch the Birchwood ambulance.
Okay, so if I got it right, there's a call from Edgewater
Yes,
and it goes into our dispatch.
Yep.
Our people get called out. Once that's done, and Washburn is contacted, and then the Birchwood people would go out.
yeah, and I'd have to.
So you got
defer to
two,
Nicole, which one happens first, if you call Washburn or call our ambulance, but both things do happen.
If we get a call from the town of Edgewater, we page out Sawyer County ambulance first. Once we're done paging them out, we call Washburn County, ask them to page out Birchwood ambulance, and they both go.
And then those ambulances are to communicate to each other as to who gets on scene first and call off the other one if they're not needed.
Cause,
That's a waste of resources,
well,
especially in, like I said, I'll tell you what, right now, if that goes to the board, I will vote that, I will say no to us paying for that. Because like I said, for one thing, that's something they did on their own. And another, like I said, it's a waste of resources to have two services going towards.
Yeah, and it gets a little
Something
more,
that's that
and
far out,
and
too.
Mr. Fruml can explain, because he's been in communication with the Birchwood Ambulance Service, but it's a little even more nuanced that we have a paramedic on our ambulance. So if Birchwood Ambulance gets there first and a paramedic is needed, we still want to do the interceptor, be there to do the paramedic level care for that individual.
So we're still servicing the area.
We are, yes.
Yes. I am at a loss on this one totally. So.
Well, my thought is whatever we can do to work with each other on this ambulance thing is a benefit. So if it is what it is, they dispatch both of them. That's the way it is.
and what I've been doing with Vince, who's Birchwood, he wants to get paid. You know, they have the contract, they want to be paid. So my whole thing with them is just getting them up to speed on our level of care for the county. And if they get there and they can assess a patient, and if the patient is gonna go to like a local hospital that we service, that I want to be able to assess that patient, get my paramedics there, because that's the level that all of Sawyer County residents are paying for, you know. And also there's another nuance to that, and that actually goes on to my medical examiner side, that they do things in Washburn County as a BLS service that we can do differently as a ALS service, especially when it comes to running CPR runs and stuff like that, where we get helicopters and all sorts of stuff, and we can do a lot more advanced level. So what they do right now, because they are a BLS service, is like they're just grabbing people and then running, because they, you know, the most that they can do is an IV and that's it. And then they're trying to meet with whoever they can. And I'm in talk with them to train them up to like, hey, you know, let's talk together. Let's find out how far my crew is from you. And that's going to just be dual training between us and them, and doing what's right for the Sawyer County resident that pays to have us.
So do we know what we've been paying the Birchwood? At the
It'd be
county?
in the 60,000.
Yeah.
How much?
60,000.
A year?
Yes,
60?
60.
I think it's a little
I
more.
believe
than
that's
that,
what-
but
Edgewater pays to Birchwood Ambulance Service.
Oh. Wow.
I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that you're working with Birchwood and trying to, you know, keep them up to speed and everything. That's great you're doing that. Like you said, we do want to ensure that all Sawyer County is being serviced correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, and my concern, what you said, Mr. Fremmel, is that the Birchwood is not got the paramedics that you got that are more trained to handle things.
yeah.
But we're
and-
gonna pay them 60,000?
Well, and that's why I want to kind of work with, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it, because this has been going on since like 1971,
Okay,
you know, since Sawyer County has became its own county entity. You know, Edgewater has always been with Birchwood, because Birchwood is just right there. It's like
Right
2
there.
miles away.
Yeah.
But now that we're full-time, now that, you know, we are a higher level of care, it's just getting the smaller areas to realize that, yes, you can still have this kind of service and agreements if you would like that. However, you need to understand that you don't have to just run to the, you know, just tear off and run, because some of the things that my medics can do to prepare a person for the hospital is more important than just running to the hospital,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
So, and that's just, it's all training. Vince is on board with it. We can get together. I'm not the finance person, so I'm not going to talk about the money part. I just want to work together and do what's right for Sawyer County residents.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, like I say, and I'm hoping that we can work out this with Birchwood, you know, so. It's just something that we need to get done.
Well, and you know, even using them as like a first responding agency, because you know, like we are really busy. And so if Ojibwa had to run to Hayward with a patient, right? And my other ambulance is posting in the middle of the county because they're coming to Hayward, you know, that's still a pretty long response time. So having anybody show up that's closer is good, but it's just that
Exactly. I agree with
communication
that,
together.
yeah.
It's just like a fire department when a fire department gets done scene. It's just getting us to communicate and you know, let us do the acuity of the patient and then doing what's right, because what they're trained for and their level of like what needs what is, you know, a lot lower than what we have to, you know, our standards are a lot higher just because we are an ALS service.
Well, I'm glad you and Andy are still working this out, so I mean.
So we don't have an official agreement yet. I did send Andy a mutual aid contract that's sent to Corp Counsel just to, you know, look at the legal jargon, but so what happens is if Birchwood had an ambulance, it took a patient and then we intercepted, we basically pay Birchwood for that, their fee, and then we charge the patient. That's how that billing goes. And the reason it being is because our ALS is obviously more. But that's a typical mutual aid. We do it for every mutual aid.
Okay.
No matter what, so.
All right, is there any more questions for Mr. Frema? Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate it. All right, number 14. Review approval draft budget of use of funds, discussion and possible action.
We have public health here to give the presentation.
Okay.
Good morning. I have the budget that I'll be passing out. Joyce is going to kind of talk about some of the things that are in the budget and things that we've been working on. We move forward.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, so several months ago, Sawyer County Public Health conducted a gap analysis relating to substance use and mental health issues in Sawyer County. And from that, we learned a lot, but we put together a plan. I don't know if you are aware, but Sawyer County is actually #2 in the state for per capita overdose deaths. We are behind Milwaukee. As a result of that, part of what we learned was that the community is not aware of the fentanyl issue in Sawyer County. So a fentanyl awareness team was created. On this team are law enforcement representatives from Sawyer County Sheriff's Department, from City of Hayward PD, Town of Hayward PD, LCO PD. We've also got the administrator from Hayward School. We've met with the LCO school and the Winter School. We have Stacy Hessel, Jim Miller, Sawyer County Public Health representatives, Marie Basty and Dottie Crust from LCO, as well as Kim Dale, who is a parent who has suffered the loss of a child from fentanyl, and Mark Manty, who is a community member. So we've been meeting monthly to come up with a plan to spread awareness of fentanyl throughout the community of Sawyer County. And so what you see on that budget is a lot of advertising dollars. We plan to put up billboards, road signs. We have flyers here I can hand out and show you. Sawyer County has also, we were approved as a Narcan site. So we created an online Narcan training site. People can go on, it's a 6-minute training. They get trained in Narcan and its uses, and then they can come to Sawyer County Public Health at any time and get free Narcan. Our saying is, don't be fooled by fentanyl, your future depends on it. We participated in the Muskie Fest parade and handed out pamphlets with information. We've given a presentation to the Spider Lake Church. We were at National Night Out. And in August, we are presenting to 3 in-service for teachers at Hayward, LCO, and Winter Schools. And then in September, we're also doing a presentation to the entire student body of Hayward, LCO, and Winter for grades 6 through 12. And just a little FYI for Narcan, we've had More than 200 people have taken the training since we started it at the end of May, and we've distributed almost 100 boxes of Narcan this far. We do have a calendar. We are going to be interviewed by the Sawyer County Record. We're speaking to the Gazette. We are going to be on radio, WRLS, WOJB. We are creating an ad that will be played in the cinema here in Hayward. And then we also plan to be on at different games and events, not just football games, not just sports, but also concerts, drama club, to get to the whole community. And the other thing we are working on is working with other counties that are interested in putting this also on the gas station video ads that you see. We really want to saturate the county. As we've done these presentations, it's absolutely amazing how much people really do not know about fentanyl and how much misconception there is that this is just a substance use issue. Casual users who are smoking weed, it's in vapes. It's everywhere, and it's a real concern, and we as a community need to fight it together.
Okay, so you've seen a little bit of the advertising that we will be working on. What you're getting passed around now is called Lambie Learns. It is something that we'll be purchasing. Hopefully we'll get some for law enforcement as well. If you end up coming across any children or situations where we might want to pass those out to families, we're working with our Child Protective Services right now, and they are all looking forward to getting those. As you look at the packet here, what I have, how I've set it up, and you guys are the first ones to see it set up this way, so you're gonna have to tell me if it makes sense on how we have it marked in here. But the total is in that, under the total column is what all of the expenses would be through what we've already determined that we would like to be doing. There are some additional dollars or things that we're looking at for staff training, mental health provider, and diversion program that is still being worked through for the jail. So that's on the very bottom, and that has a to be determined next to it, along with law enforcement revenue, or it's when it says LE grants, it's a law enforcement grant for the revenue. And the reason why that's to be determined is we did get the letter that said that we got the grant, but we still don't know how much that's going to be. So we'll be able to add that. So what I've done is there are some grants that we've gotten through Health and Human Services that we can kind of work, we call it blending and braiding your fiscal grants so that we can pay for things throughout depending on what the grant says that we can spend money on. So as I've gone through, I've tried to, under HHS, that those are the things that we have grants that we can charge to. Things that we can't charge to that are the things that we move forward into the opioid settlement request. And again, we'll still be looking at more grants for law enforcement as they come forward as well. As we look down towards the very bottom, we have the grand total request of $200,005. And then you can see we split up about 77,000 coming from HHS and about 130 coming from opioid settlement. The settlements that we've received so far is 121,905. Andy reports that we're got the message or the notice that we'll be getting the 21,000 for 2023. I did put in what is due in 2024. We will also, there's some different funding, and maybe Andy has the information on that. I'm not sure. That will be coming in addition to this. Does that make sense the way it's set up?
Yes.
I just have, so.
Mhm.
To just pop in here, but.
Yep.
So after everything that you get from the opioid settlement and the grants, there's 205, so it looks like about 40,000 that we'll have to.
We'll still have funding left to be able to, no, we've got, so we'll have we'll have enough funding, we'll have more funding that we'll be able to spend on additional things. Andy looks like he's ready to.
So what's shown there for the opioid settlement is what the 121,905 is what we received. We have in the bank right now. We received the notice from the settlement agency of the 21,161 is being distributed presently. So we should see that hit our bank account in the next week. And then we get the 26, 486 and 24. And then that continues on for another 12 years. It starts to go down, but there is more money coming in. And this is just the money from the distributor settlement. So we've already signed off on the retailer settlement and we're awaiting how much that will be. We've been told to expect a number somewhat close to this one though. So I want to say double the 21. Like I want to say we're getting another 21,000 every year, but it's going to be in that ballpark. So this is this a 12-month budget or? Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's look at it as a 12-month
Okay.
and we'll kind of just do a cyclical on it
Yeah.
starting from now. The other message,
Just to wrap up my question.
Oh.
So the county isn't gonna have to put out money towards.
Correct. This is all
Oh,
opioid settlement money.
all opioid settlement. Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Thank you.
The other piece I did want to make note on is with the fentanyl awareness work group or steering committee, I'm not even sure what we call that right now. Everything is team, everything's been happening so fast, but that also will have a website set up with it and we'll be receiving donations. So we're hoping we can keep up with kind of the advertising and those pieces moving forward through donations that are received through that program. Question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to offer a little more background because I anticipate we're going to have some questions
Okay.
moving ahead. So you saw, I think, a number of months ago, kind of the draft outline of the gap analysis that public health did. And there's been some questions as to why public health is doing this. So a year or more when we know that the opioid settlement was coming, CJCC was actually the one that it was directed to start talking about how to use those funds. And I'll just say my observation was that CJCC was floundering. I mean, there was a lot of ideas. I think Mark's been in those meetings. They're talking about, let's buy a house for a recovery center. Let's hire people to work in the jail to do treatment and, just a lot of good ideas, but you start to package it up. What's realistic? I mean, how many dollars? At the state level, a lot of the opioid settlement the state's getting is being directed to DHS, and DHS was leading that discussion. So I asked Julia to go to the opioid conferences or, where they were starting to talk. And with the work that public health already does, as far as putting the community health assessment together, they have the best ability to look at the gaps in the county as to what we need to do. And I think the other comment I'll make, because I've heard, other counties are doing this and this, the difference between Sawyer County and some of our surrounding counties is we have an actual problem here with opioids and fentanyl. And law enforcement probably can chime in on that. But you talk to Rusk or Washburn or even Barron, they have had a meth problem. They're starting to see a little more other drugs come in, but we have an opioid issue. We've known we have an opioid issue. And probably now the urgency of moving this ahead and getting the awareness out is, if I got the number right, there's been 9 opioid or fentanyl deaths this year. There was 9 over the prior 2 years. So and not just the deaths, law enforcement is getting tied up more with overdoses and administering Narcan. Probably the specific issue that we all heard about last month was ambulance being tied up on a overdose, not available to take a child to the hospital that was in a critical situation. So we're starting to tie up other resources. So that's why this is moving ahead. And that's why the fentanyl awareness to start with is kind of the rollout of the opioid funds use.
Okay.
I just have a quick comment that I think you guys put together a great
It is.
synopsis here of everything we need and, where the money's coming from and all that. Very good job. I don't care if people complain who's doing it. They've done a fine job.
Thank you.
Mr. Weaver, you got a question?
And I'm sorry, I don't have for you. I can email it to you, Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can't even see the county boardroom right now or anything. I don't know if PR is the right way to go for this. It's a lot of money that's being spent on PR. I think people, I mean, is it being advertised to the right people? Are people that are addicted to drugs looking at advertisements? I'm just not sure that this is a logical plan for a county that has more deaths than any other besides Milwaukee. So I'm a little skeptical on that.
Actually, you bring up the perfect point that is part of the education. The fentanyl is not just affecting people who are drug addicted. So a very well-known member of the community told me a story and I hear this story all the time. His 21-year-old nephew turned 21, decided to go out to the bar with some buddies, have a few drinks, stepped outside, somebody offered him a joint. He had 2 tokes of the joint, didn't feel good, went home and he died. It had fentanyl in it. A lot of the marijuana being confiscated in Sawyer County has fentanyl in it. It's not just people that are sitting and using heroin and meth and cocaine. Yes, that is laced, but it's also killing people in vapes. It's killing people in marijuana. And unfortunately, in this county, the attitude seems to be that marijuana is okay with a good portion of people who are not drug addicted. So that's a very good point. Yes, we do think it's important. We have parents that say it's not my problem. And I actually have been going into the jail and interviewing people with substance use issues, and they are terrified. They have told me, well, my kids smoke weed, but that's no big deal. And when I tell them that there's fentanyl in the weed, now they're scared. So even people who are using drugs don't realize the extent of the problem. But thank you for bringing up that point.
No, but that does sound like something that's an illegal drug. I don't really care what illegal drug they're using. If they're using illegal drugs, obviously there's consequences. You're not going to trust your drug dealer to tell you the truth. And so I just don't know that this is the right point.
Okay. And a lot of the expenses and things that are going out is the education that is going to be happening in the schools with, that is where the major push is right now. We will be educating during the, what do we call it? The in-service days, sorry, for the teachers, and then looking at assemblies at all 3 schools. And I believe the sheriff will be part of those presentations as well.
Yeah, the presentation is going to be us presenting the facts of fentanyl and what's going on in Sawyer County. We will give an introduction of Narcan and why it's used and what it does. And then Kim Dale will tell the story of her daughter who grew up here in Hayward and died of fentanyl overdose. And then Sheriff Motek will also discuss the legal aspects of it and the dealer issue. So we expect it'll be a full rounded discussion.
Any more questions for him? So
Thank you very much.
thank you. You need a vote on this?
Oh, yeah, however you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful. What we're doing this month, and it just happens always that public safety is first. CJCC and Human Services will get this, and well, we have it on the agenda for Health and Human Services Committee, CJCC, and Finance. With the intent is to keep passing it up to the county board this month.
County board, okay. All right. Anybody want to make a motion to approve as presented?
I guess my question would be, what's the motion, approving the
This.
budget?
Yes,
Okay,
Budget.
then,
yes, the opioid dollars,
okay,
the purple column.
then I would make a motion to approve the opioid settlement budget.
Use of funds, yeah.
Use of fund.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Helwig and a second by Mr. Savitsky to approve the opioid budget as presented. Any more discussion? Not, Lynn, you want to do just a voice or you want to use the thing? Okay. So all in favor to approve, say aye.
Hi,
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries to approve with 1 nay vote. Okay. Number B, current opioid and fentanyl issues and impacts. That was it. That's what I thought. Okay. All right, number 15, future agenda items. Lynn, you got the the Draper communication thing on there, okay. You guys have anything else you want to throw on there? If not, number 16, correspondence reports from conferences and meetings. If not, any more business? Not, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and Chief and Lieutenant and all you guys be safe out there. And thank you for your service.